and I felt I just knew that there was a calling on my life. I didn't know what it was. Didn't know if it was ministry, if I was going to pastor a church or what, but I knew that I had this calling on my life to really reach out and impact people's lives. And I wasn't sure how that was. You know, I wrote a program, Get the How Out of the Way. Don't be so concerned with the how. Just figure out what and why, and then how kind of becomes self-evident. So it was July 19, 1979. It was just like volume. I knew right then. And so that very first night, I'm at this youth camp, and that very first night I'm like, okay, I'm 15 years old, and I'm going into my junior year of high school, and I'm like, I go up to a camp counselor and I said, you know, you've got a group in your cabin, right? And he goes, yeah. And I said, can I come speak there tonight? And he goes, about what? And I go, I don't know, but can I come speak? And he goes, sure, come on in. So I went, that was the first speaking engagement I ever did, July 19, 1979. And I continued on, and I've spoken to, you know, tons of people, and I've been really gifted with the opportunity to just meet amazing people. I'll give you one of the things that has really helped me the most, being really coachable. You know, being coachable. I don't care how much you know, act like you know nothing. You'll be so much further ahead. I've been so blessed. I was blessed to be going to a church where a guy made $6 million one year, and the guy goes, you know, everyone was talking about this guy who made $6 million, and I knew who he was, but I'm like, yeah, he's 42 years old, and I'm probably 24, 25. And I walked up to him and I said, can I buy you breakfast? And he goes, sure. So we met for breakfast, and he goes, I know why you want to meet for breakfast. I go, why? He goes, because you want to know how I made all that money that everyone's talking about at church. And I said, no, really I don't. That really doesn't matter, because how you made it is irrelevant to me, because I may not be able to make it the same way. I said, but what I want to know is, who did you have to become in order to make that money? Because see, if you had to become a rotten son of a bitch, I don't want the money. But if you had to become, and you had to step up your game, and you had to become something more than you were, then I'm all in. And he goes, I like that. He says, that's a great question. So I said, at the end of the conversation, I said, hey, can I do this? Can I work for you one day a week for free? He goes, Bob, I'm 42 years old, I'm retired. What would you possibly do for me? I said, I have no idea. I'll go be your caddy. I'll shag tennis balls. I'll do your gardening. I'll do your laundry. And he goes, why would you be willing to do that? I said, because I just want to be around you and see how you live your life. And he said, deal. For the next 6 months, I worked with him. Every time I showed up, it was something like this. First day I showed up, I go, okay, what am I going to do? Now I'm thinking I'm going to be gardener. I mean, I'm thinking for sure he is going to put me through so much rigmarole that I would not want to do this very long. First day he gets in the car. I said, where are we going? He goes, it doesn't matter. I went, first thing I got to realize is that, you know what? When you ask somebody for help, you don't need to be in control. I don't need to know where we're going. He's got that under control. So he got in the car. We drove down to downtown LA for the huge skyscraper. He says, we're going to be at the very top floor. He goes, and I'm thinking about buying this company. He goes, so I've got my attorney and my CPA there, and they've got their attorney and their CPA and the owners, and we're going to sit down at a conference table, and we're going to talk about the terms and whether it makes sense for me to buy the company. I said, great, what do I do? He says, you become a fly on the wall, and you just sit there. I said, I can do that. I sat there. He introduces me to everyone at the table. And then he says, this is somebody I'm mentoring, and so it's going to take a little bit longer today, gentlemen. And if you need to excuse yourself, that's fine, but I'm going to explain to him what's going on. So he immediately changes seats with me with the CPA and says, explain to Bob why this business makes sense or doesn't make sense for me to buy based on these P&Ls. For 6 months, every day that I worked with him were filled with experiences like that. I got a PhD in business. I got a PhD in business in 6 months. I guarantee there's nobody that's got a PhD in business that has gotten more practical experience than I did. It was amazing. I've done that with about 50 different people. I did that with a gentleman driving down the street. He pulls up in a Rolls Royce. I said, hey, can I buy you lunch? He says, why? I said, because obviously you've accomplished something that I haven't yet at this point in my life. He goes, pull over. I pull over. He says, get in. I said, okay. I got in. We spent the next 2 hours driving around. We had lunch together. At the end, I said, you know, he says, why would you get into a strange person's car? I said, well, because I wanted to learn. I said, but I got a better question. He goes, what's that? I said, why would you let a strange person into your car? He said, for the same exact reason, because you wanted to learn. He goes, I love teaching people. Very few people ask to be taught. Make yourself a really good student and watch and see what happens.
Anybody else? I got one more question.
Okay.
So we heard that you coached somebody all the way from 81 years old. What's the youngest? Because they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. What's the youngest student, or do you take young people?
I've had the really distinct privilege when I started my nonprofit organization at age 18. I was working with mostly teens, suicide, crisis management, that type of thing. But I've worked with people all the way down to 8 and 11. So it really depends on what they're looking for. It's about how do you create shift for someone. That's the most important thing. If you've got a client that says no, or I need to think about it, or I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough time, it's about you creating that shift for them. I teach a program called The Art of Intervention, because when somebody says I want to die, that's just a bad decision. All I got to do is help them make a better decision and get them to decide where they want to live. And once I mastered that process there, it was like, oh, well then I can take somebody who says, I don't want to buy, I need to think about it, I've got time. I can use that same process to help that person make a better decision and buy if it's the right thing for them. If I'm not talking about manipulating them, I'm not talking about creating a false sense of urgency. Zig Ziglar made a great statement. He says, people always come up and say, I'm such a great salesman that I can sell ice to an Eskimo. And he says, that's not a salesman, that's a con man. And we need to be really clear. The difference between a salesman and a con man is intention. The difference between manipulation and influence is intention. So I've become very masterful at influencing and creating the right intentions so that people get a better result. So it doesn't matter whether they're 11 or 8. It doesn't matter whether they're 80. It's the same process. As long as you're dealing with a human being, you can use the same principle. It doesn't work on dogs.
So then what could, since everybody's going to be starting tomorrow, what's a good question that people could be asking?
Why are they starting tomorrow?
Okay, well.
See, right there. Right, see what our psychology does? I can guarantee you that some of you have already started planning what you're going to do at the first of the year. What about today?
So let's rephrase that. When they leave today,
right,
what's the first question that they could be asking themselves today to be generating their new direction for them?
Well, the question I asked is a great question, but what you want to do is you want to focus on a question that tells you about who they are, not what they do.
How about for themselves, Bob? How about for themselves? What questions would they ask themselves to get them moving in this new next level in their life?
The best thing you can ask yourself is this: what if I don't?
You guys got that?
What if everyone focuses on what do I do? What if I do? What if I do? Okay, here's all the goals. Here's all the things. I'm going to get more money. I'm going to get more health. I'm going to get what else? Ask yourself this great question: what if I don't? What if I don't? How many people will walk around unhealthy, miserable, and die prematurely if you don't tell them? What will happen? Dickens, Tony Robbins teaches a Dickens close. Talks about past, goes to Christmas past, present, and future. It's really simple to say, okay, so what kind of results have I gotten in the past doing what I've been doing? And then where am I currently right now based on what I've been doing? And then if I keep doing this, what will my projection look like in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? And then getting really clear on that. And if that's not what you like, that's not the outcome you really want, then you say, I need to do something differently. And the first thing you do is you ask yourself, if I really believe in my product or service to change somebody's life, then I gotta ask the question, what if I don't? What if I don't share that message with somebody? If you told me I couldn't go out and share, messages of impact in people's lives, I'd say just give me a gun. I mean, it's like oxygen to me. It's what I breathe. Is your business like that to you? If it's not, find a new business. You gotta find something that's like oxygen to you, that if you don't do it, you'll cease to exist. Yeah.
Kind of along the same lines, and as I was taking notes, one of the thoughts that came into my mind was fear. Keeps us from doing the things that we should do, that we know we should do and we don't do. And along the lines with what she's talking about, you're talking about like we need to lay it all out on the table every day, but for whatever reasons we don't. So you're around a lot of people, generally speaking. What are the reasons that we don't? Is it fear or something else? And how do we get beyond that?
Well, I'm going to destroy the myth that you have right now that it's fear. Okay, it's not fear. It's not fear. If you're standing at a bus stop and a car jumps the curb and is coming at you, do you move?
Yeah.
Okay, why?
Because I'm in danger.
Because you're afraid of being hurt.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
So how can you blame fear for one thing and then not give it credit for the other?
So it's not just fear, it's the fear of getting hurt?
It's the fear of what it resembles, what you associate with that. Okay, it's not just fear. Fear can serve to help you or to hurt you. So I would say it's not really fear. Just get rid of the fear thing. It's like a lot of other people say it's procrastination. Bob, I'm a procrastinator. I said, well, that same incident, you're sitting at the bus stop, a car jumps up, coming at you, do you move? Yes. Why? Because procrastination doesn't matter anymore. What happened to procrastination? See, once you say I'm fearful or I'm a procrastinator, you literally take on that identity. And once you have that identity, it's really tough to break free of that to take a different response. So the first thing I'd say is, if you think it is fear, you think that whatever it is that I always start with this: the problem is not the problem. No matter what somebody tells me, even if I'm dealing with suicide prevention, somebody says, Bob, what's the problem? I say, well, what's the problem? Well, because I don't have any money, my wife left me, whatever. That's not the problem, that's a symptom of the problem. So we've always got to look. So it's not the fear, it's what's beneath the fear. Okay, what's creating that? If you're not talking to somebody, I'll guarantee you this: if you believed more in your product or service, you would talk to more people. When I said, if you had the cure to cancer, how many would you talk to? I bet you said everyone. Am I right? So it's a belief. It's not fear, it's a belief in who you are and what you offer, what you bring to the table. Yeah.
Okay, so my quick question is related to what you do, and then a lot of us are coaches or mentors to other people, and sometimes we overextend ourselves. How do you know when you're not the right person to help somebody? And is that ever the case, maybe for you or for other people?
Lots of times.
So how do you know that you stepped into a situation that you need to pull back and say, maybe I'm not the right person to help?
Typically, I'm not the right person to help if the person just wants to give excuses. If somebody comes to me for like one-on-one, which I only do, if you're going to do one-on-one meet, it's one day at my beach house. We spend an entire day. It's $5,000, and we're going to break through all the shit before you leave. Okay, it's just the way it is. Now, based on that, here's the deal. You have to jump through a certain criteria in order to be at that one day with me. Once you've done that, you've proven that you are responsible for yourself and that you are willing to make changes and that you're coachable. The first inclination that I get that somebody's not coachable is the first inclination that they're not my client. I don't want to play babysitter. If I say, actually, here's my coaching question. Somebody wants to really work with me one-on-one. I say, here's the deal. If I tell you to do something, will you do it? Will you ask questions about it, or will you just do it? I'll do it. How quick will you do it? Immediately. Okay, we're good. But the first time you start asking questions, you're fired. And we will go to court over the money. Because it's not about the money, it's about what the money represents.
Sure.
And it means that you're backing out on your commitment to yourself. It has nothing to do with me. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because the coachable say, I just know that you're the right person, and I'm just going to listen and I'm going to take action. The coach will do that. The reason that people keep asking questions is because they're trying to give themselves justification for not taking action. They're never. That's a reason that you're doing that. There's a pattern you've created for that that's telling you that, okay, if I don't understand everything, I can't possibly take action. Well, that's why you just said, I want to understand. Well, right. So, but again, if you have to understand to take action, you're not a client, and that's why you'll be stuck where you're at, because you can't possibly get to the next level of anything in your life if you're sitting there going, I've got to understand it before I take action.
Right.
If you've got a mentor, just shut up and listen. I mean, that's the best advice I give. When you've got a mentor that you've entrusted, you just shut up and you listen. You just do what they tell you to do. If I want to become a professional football player, I go to somebody who's a professional football player, but I don't say, well, why do I do this? Why do I do this? I just do what they tell me to do. Because why? Because they've done it. I don't need to ask why.
What about how?
Huh?
What about how?
Get the how out of the way. The problem with how is we get stuck there. If you answer 6 other questions, there's 6 other questions that go along with an investigative report or a police report before it's considered deemed a closed report. There's these other questions. If you ask those questions, the how becomes self-evident. But unfortunately, we begin with how, and then people come up, Bob, how do I make more money? Well, that's the wrong question, because I can tell you a million ways to ask it, but it doesn't solve the problem. So what I do is I teach you some other questions, like who, what, why, where, when, and ask you about 20 questions beneath each one of those, and then all of a sudden how becomes self-evident. How is really a stumbling block.
You're absolutely amazing. Give him a hand.
Thank you.
And I think that sometimes people get stuck in when they're thinking about a question of the steps. Though they're forgetting that if you were playing basketball and your coach was Bob Wooten, he's not, whatever he tells you to do, that's because he's giving you the steps to the consistency to take the action to get where you're going. So when you hire a coach, you're hiring a coach that already knows how to get the result. So when he's saying you're questioning, he's not saying that questions aren't a good step, because obviously questions are the answer, but we've already gone past that. He's the coach that teaches people for their life skills or their business for the next level. So whether it's to learn how to bake a cake or whether it's to learn how to play basketball, you're finding the right coach to get you to that point. So what he's saying, anything else, if you've got the right coach and then you're just going on and on and on about the same different questions, your resistance is your persistence, so you're not getting in the game. And I think that's really, Bob has got it. If you want to get in the game, that's why you hire a coach. And every successful person that I've ever known, they do have a coach. It doesn't matter if even Tony Robbins had how many coaches? Oh my goodness gracious. Jim Rohn was one of Tony Robbins' coaches. You all think of the book Think and Grow Rich. My best friend, who I will bring as a speaker to, Don Hobbs, he was with Tony at Jim Rohn, and that's how both of them became where they are. They had the right coach. So yes, finding the right coach for where you want to go with your life. Some people get stuck in the life part of it. Some people get stuck in the systematic part of how to do something specifically. But that's where Bob's had success. He's not just a life coach, but he's a business coach. So I think that's amazing that you can find somebody that can do both.
Yeah, and I don't consider myself a life coach. There's a lot of those, and a lot of them do great jobs. I'm a result strategist.
Yeah, there you go.
You tell me the result you want, and we'll create a strategy to help you get it. Whether it's in your relationship, your health, your finances, your business, your career, whatever it is, that's the focus, is the result. Because results don't lie. You're either getting the ones you want, or you're not.
Bob, that's an excellent point. If you don't mind elaborating, what is the difference between a coach, a mentor, a trainer, a teacher? You just said
I think they cross over a lot, but a strategist, what I do is I sit down and really map out a strategy with you. How is it that the result you're getting right now is not the one you want? Then how do we create a different result? And so then we put together the strategy that goes in behind that, of what that strategy is and who you are that can do that. Because if your psychology, your inner game isn't strong enough to support the strategy I create for you, it doesn't matter, you'll never do it. It's like the guy who says, okay, I want you to do 2,000 sit-ups a week. Well, most people's psychology won't support it. So what's the likelihood it's ever going to happen? It's not going to happen. So what good was that strategy? We've got to create a strategy that is custom fit for you, that we can help you implement on a daily and consistent basis. So a strategist does that.
That's a perfect segue into, we are coming up to the first of the year, and I did a lot of stuff for Mike Ferry, and he's like, no, you start your business plans now, today, because you're not going to have any deals closing in January if you wait till January, right? So why is it that people, they get this goal of starting their workout in January? What could people do differently to start now today?
Again, they ask the question, what if they don't?
What if they don't?
What if they don't?
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer.
You are amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
So anyway, we're open now. Everybody would like to meet Bob. Come over. Can I pass some cards out to people? Somebody's card there. Yep. So this is going to be an AM, and it's on November 20th. So Bob, can they